Generally, Europeans do not have that high of an opinion of Americans. And I can say that because I know I grew up in Middle Europe. I was born and raised in Austria, and then I lived in the United States for 16 years. And now I came back about 4 years ago to move to Switzerland and live in Switzerland. My husband is American, and our kids have dual citizenship. So since our last name is very British, most Swiss people usually do not expect or think or presume that we can speak German. And actually both my husband and I, we can speak German. And I always find it fascinating because, for instance, like the other day, so obviously I'm like a native speaker, right? I have an accent. I'm obviously I have an Austrian accent, but my husband, like, he can speak fluently German as well, but he has a strong accent. So you can tell that he's not like a German native speaker of any sorts. So we were trying to get our washer and dryer fixed. And so my husband, he's the one who calls up like the company first in order to sort of like take advantage of our warranty, and he wants to get the washer and dryer fixed. And that lady is first of all a little standoffish on the phone. She's a little rude. He was saying later, and she gave him an appointment for 2 weeks time, right? In 2 weeks time. And the thing is though, like I even told him, like, tell them we have little kids, our laundry is piling up. It's insane. If there's anyone that couldn't come out like faster. So he did all of that. He tried all of that. They still came in 2 weeks time, and then they had to order another part, and then came a week later. And so the funny thing is, then after they came a week later to order the other part, they made another mistake. So it wasn't working, the washing machine still. So I told my husband, okay, forget it. Like I was so furious already, like I'm gonna call up. So I'm calling up, and I have a completely different experience than my husband had, right? Like when I was calling up, the lady was nice on the phone. We were kind of like joking even. And she's like, oh, you know what? Like no problem at all. I'm going to put you in there as sort of an emergency. I'm going to have someone come the next day. Like she even wanted to have someone come the same day, but obviously we couldn't because of like time reasons. So I was like, okay, great. The next day he comes. The engineer came to kind of like, or the mechanic came to fix it. I don't even, mechanic, he came to fix it, and everything was great and it worked fine again. And so the funny thing is that this is actually not like the first time that that happened to us, right? And I do think I understand completely, and I don't want to talk about it. I understand completely, obviously, how privileged you are. Like, that's not the point. The point is still there is a very, very fine, subtle discrimination going on, which is interesting, right? And I feel like people that can speak the language and maybe people that cannot speak the language. And it's interesting because I do think, and I do know that we do the same thing in Austria. At least it was like that growing up. And I don't really know how you can get past that at all. I think probably most countries or cultures in the world do that. Although I will say, but that's the point of another video, that when I lived in Seoul, South Korea, and I spoke and tried to speak Korean, and obviously I can speak communicative Korean, like very, very basic, but usually most people there are super, super thankful. They're very, very thankful if you can speak it. Whereas I feel like in Europe, my husband has the experience that either they're a little bit standoffish if you're trying to speak German and they notice that you're not a native German speaker per se, or they are going to want to practice their English and showcase and show off their English with you. So I don't know, what is your experience? But from now on, I'm going to be the one doing all of the calls going forward if there's anything in our apartment that needs to be fixed. Yep.